Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular monthly meeting for March 5th, 2015, the school board for the city of Danville, Virginia. I call the meeting to order and request that the deputy clerk call our roll.
Ms. Bryant. Dr. Campbell.
Present.
Ms. Downs.
Yes, here.
Mr. Gould.
Here.
Mrs. Hall. Here. Ms. Hughes.
Here.
Dr. Paul-Hamus.
Here. All right, you have an agenda before you. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agendas.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Hall, second from Ms. Hughes to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All right, then please call the roll.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Ms. Downs.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Dr. Paul-Hamus.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
All right, then we move to our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Philip Campbell will be leading that this evening. Dr. Campbell.
Our Father, we thank you for allowing us to be at another school board meeting. We ask of you if you will give us direction to make right decisions for the Danville Public Schools. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We now move to the approval of our minutes. We have minutes from the February 5th regular meeting and from the discipline minutes from February 19th and the work session also February 19th. What is your pleasure?
Chair, move we approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion there from Dr. Campbell, second from Ms. Downs to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All right, then call the roll, please.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Downs.
Yes.
Dr. Paul-Hamus.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
All right, we now move then to the consent items. This evening, the consent items are strictly the ones from the disciplinary hearing panel. There are 6 cases there. Is there any request to remove any for consideration in closed session? Yes, Mr. Gould.
Mr. Chairman, I would request that we remove 120 and 130 for discussion in closed session.
All right, the case ending in 120 and the case ending in 130. All right, then what is there anyone else who wants to pull any? All right, then what is your pleasure on the remaining 4 discipline cases under consent?
Chair, I move we approve those remaining.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Hall, second from Ms. Hughes to approve the remaining consent items. Any discussion? All right, then please call the roll.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Dr. Paul-Hamus.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Ms. Downs.
Yes.
Very good. Now we come to the fun part of the meeting, our recognitions, and we're going to start off with a proclamation for Music in Our Schools Month. And the person who is going to actually get to read the proclamation tonight, the vocal music educator from George Washington High School, Ms. Leanne Sheridan. Ms. Sheridan, please come to the lectern.
It's pretty exciting.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm just going to read it. I have some general words to share and then the proclamation. Over the years, the DPS Music Department has been a visual and oral reminder of the talents of our students possess. The DPS Music Department has had many achievements and successes this year. With your help, In August, we were able to purchase our first comprehensive general music curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade. This was the first curriculum purchase for the music department in 19 years. Both the students and teachers are thrilled to use this new approach to learning music, and it will continue to strengthen our elementary and middle school general music programs. We have also begun discussions with the music department at Averett University to find ways that we can help support both the music programs at Averett and within Danville Public Schools to further enrich the musical opportunities that our students receive. Through this partnership, we are exploring professional development opportunities for teachers and ways for the students at Averett and DPS to interact in a musical setting. At George Washington High School, all 3 musical ensembles have had a stellar year thus far. The Marching Eagles competed at 2 national competitions, performing in the Bands of America events in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Newark, Delaware. 49 symphonic band and wind ensemble students auditioned for district band. And from those, 27 students were selected to participate in the event. This was the largest delegation from GW to participate in the event in many years. The choral program has also had a strong turnout for participation in district chorus. 9 students from Westwood Middle School qualified to participate in middle school district chorus, and 6 students from GW qualified to attend high school district chorus. Of the 6 students from GW who participated in district chorus, 1 of those students qualified to participate in the All Virginia State Chorus event, which will be held later in the spring. All of the 5th grade students across the division were educated and entertained at our recruitment concert, which was held last week at GW. This assembly was held to encourage our 5th grade students to participate in musical ensembles when they attend middle school. The high school chorus, orchestra, and jazz band performed for the students to educate them on which instruments or vocal parts they could choose to explore when they reach middle school. Our elementary students have been busy performing monthly at PTA meetings and community events showcasing the skills and concepts that they have been learning in the classroom. Our annual All-City Chorus event was scheduled to take place 2 weeks ago. Although we have now had to postpone it twice due to the winter weather we have received, the event will now take place on Saturday, March the 14th. We have approximately 200 students signed up to participate in this choral event. This will be the largest all-city chorus event in the 9 years it has been held. We hope that you will be able to make it out to the concert, which will be held at 3 p.m. on that Saturday. As we look to the future, we have many spring concerts and performances scheduled to highlight the musical talent of all of our students from preschool through high school. We are now striving to enlarge and enhance our middle school and high school instrumental and choral ensembles. We are exploring ways to work together to improve our general music curriculum and allow our students to develop their musical intellect, which we know will help promote academic success. We want to thank everyone in this room tonight for all of your continued support for our music programs across the school district. And we look forward to the many more successes and opportunities that are on the horizon for our students. With that in mind, I would like to share with you Music in Our Schools Month, March 2015, Music Lasts a Lifetime Proclamation. Whereas the study of music is basic to the complete education, provides a competitive edge for successful educational reform, engages students in individual and group activity, develops creativity, problem solving, and critical and evaluative skills, and whereas music education helps students acquire skills in production and performance of music as well as an understanding of history and culture. And whereas the National Association for Music Education is concerned with maintaining and improving school music programs for all students, regardless of their socioeconomic status or their abilities, therefore, be it hereby resolved that Danville Public Schools commends student musicians for their concern for and efforts to enhance the quality of music education. And be it further resolved that the Danville School Board hereby proclaims the month of March 2015 as Music in Our Schools Month and endorses the observance as an opportunity to support the purposes and practices of music education and encourages teachers, students, and all citizens to participate. Adopted February 19th, 2015.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Would you please ask your music educator colleagues to stand and join you? Yay. On behalf of the board, we not only like to do the annual proclamation, but it is great to have the opportunity to publicly acknowledge in a very personal way how much we believe that music education is vital for Danville Public Schools. The impact on the lives of these young people and the way it will help mold their future is just unbelievable, and I personally thank you, each and every one, for making that happen. Thank you. All right, along a similar vein, we now move to Youth Art Month, and the individual who has volunteered to read the proclamation for Youth Art Month, also an educator from George Washington High School, Ms. Sandra Marsh.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm sorry that we didn't have a big turnout with our art teachers this afternoon, but unfortunately with the inclement weather, we're going to, we did pretty good. I would like to cordially invite each and every one of you on the school board and administrators and so on to our Fine Arts Night 2015. It's going to be April the 15th. That's on a Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 o'clock. It will not only be a collaboration of George Washington High School, but also Galileo. We will not only have a visual arts exhibition with students from kindergarten through the 12th grade. That will be in the auditorium of George Washington High School. But we will also have the performing arts and, of course, some of our wonderful music people and drama people and chorus will be performing on the stage. And I hope that each and every one of all of you and our audience and our public will please come and support us. I think you'll truly enjoy it. With that note, I'm going to read the Youth Art Month, March 2015 proclamation. Whereas youth art education benefits all elementary, middle, and secondary students, and whereas through art education, students develop a deeper understanding of multicultural values, and whereas art education helps students develop lifelong skills, including motor skills, language development, inventiveness, visual learning, and decision-making, and whereas art education interrelates student learning in art production, art history, art criticism, and aesthetics, and whereas during Youth Art Month, we recognize the contributions made by art educators across the Commonwealth in the development and learning of Virginia students. Now, therefore, the Danville School Board hopefully recognizes that March 2015 be observed as Youth Art Month, etc. And, of course, that's declared by Governor Terrence R. McAuliffe. Adopted the 19th of February 2015.
Yay, thank you, Ms. Marsh. Will you please invite your fellow art educators to rise and be acknowledged? Yay.
Thank you.
Well, as I said about music, I will also say about art. It is an essential offering that we trust the students benefit from, whether it's at the most basic levels in our elementary schools, right up to the elective courses that we offer to the students at George Washington High School that can lead them in some very interesting career paths. We know that art indeed is a worthy part of our offerings, and thank you so much for being here tonight. All right, we now move to recognition of the principals and the bookkeepers relative to the 2014 audit. I will give a basic cautionary note at the beginning. We did have a different audit firm this year, and they took a slightly different approach. They were, in some ways, I think, a bit more probing in their checking of our finances. So while we may not be recognizing as many of our principals and bookkeepers as we have in recent years, we still thank each and every one for their diligent care in handling the public monies that come through the offices in each and every school. So, Ms. Cassidy, if I haven't stolen all your thunder, I will let you take the lectern.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Dr. Paul Amos. You have stolen my thunder and my remarks, but I will read them anyway.
Okay.
There are many demands put on our school office personnel on a daily basis. In addition to the basic job of overseeing the educational process, these personnel must be counselors, healthcare providers, transportation experts, disciplinarians, and public relations specialists. On top of all this, they are required to maintain financial records that can withstand the toughest scrutiny. Tonight, we would like to recognize those schools who have achieved exception-free audits of their financial records for the 2013-14 school year. As the board is aware, the division had a new auditing firm to conduct the audits for 13-14, and they were tough. Their audit was very thorough and looked at more items and in more depth than had ever been done before. Even so, the schools being recognized here tonight were found to have no exceptions to the required documentation or procedures. This really is an extraordinary accomplishment, and we thank them so very much for the hard work and the diligence that is evidenced by this accomplishment. Now, I fear that the weather has kept some of our recognitions, those that we were going to recognize, away, but we're going to recognize them anyway. Sharon Barksdale, who serves as the internal auditor for our division, is going to hand out the certificates, and I'd like to recognize her role in this success because she counsels our school bookkeepers, she trains them, she works with them, and goes to look at their records before the auditors look at their records. So a lot of this is attributable to her as well. In recognition of 1 year of exception-free audits, Gibson Elementary School, Kim Agner, Principal, Kathy Whittefield, Bookkeeper.
Yay.
Great job. Great job. W.W. Moore Detention Center, Patricia Davis, Principal, Lily Jacob, Bookkeeper, 2 years of exception-free audits.
Yay.
Also, with 2 years of exception-free audits, Northside Preschool, Luann Long, Principal, Sally Rossman, Bookkeeper. In recognition of 9 years of exception-free audits, the Adult Education Center, Jackie Rochford, Director, Crystal Eccles, Bookkeeper. In recognition of 10 years of exception-free audits, Langston Focus School, Jocelyn Fitzgerald, Principal, and Patricia Ratliff, Bookkeeper. Also 10 years, Grove Park Preschool, Luann Long, Principal, and Sally Rossman, Bookkeeper. Woodbury Hills Elementary, 10 years of exception-free audit, Sandra Andrews, principal, and Nicole Toomer, bookkeeper. And this really is exceptional because this school is so large and has so many transactions. George Washington High School, 10 years of exception-free audits, Withers Jackson, principal, Janet Scott, and Joanne Wright, bookkeepers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cassida and Ms. Barksdale, and to each school who received a certificate today for error-free audit, and for every one of the bookkeepers who strive so hard to make sure that every penny is accounted for appropriately and in a timely way. We thank you one and all. All right, we now move to the portion of our agenda this evening that deals with the upcoming budget for the school year that will end on June 30th, 2016. The first piece of this will be a brief presentation from Ms. Cassida again to give the board draft one of the proposed budget and to make other comments. And then after her presentation, we'll see if the board members have questions or comments for her, and then we will open it to the public for comments during a public hearing. So, Ms. Cassida, would you return?
Thank you. This evening, we bring to you the summary of the Draft 1 proposal for the General Fund operating budget for the 2015-16 fiscal year. This information was presented to the Finance Committee of the Board at its meeting on Monday, March the 2nd. Using the 14-15 budget as the base, this document lists the mandates, the new initiatives, and then savings or cost avoidance. Mandates are those things beyond the division's control. They must affect our current budget. New initiatives are those things that are being proposed as additions to the current budget. And savings or cost avoidance are either additional revenues or reductions to current expenditures that will allow us to fund the mandates and the new initiatives. So we, hopefully you have in your packet the one-page Draft 1 document, and we'll just review that briefly at this point. Under mandates, the first one there is an increase to our health insurance premiums. And the percentage that we were quoted is 3% increase to our health insurance premiums. Industry rates right now, trends are 12 to 15% increase. So we're very pleased to have that 3% increase only. I will also mention that this Draft 1 of the proposed budget does not include any changes to funding for requirements of the Affordable Care Act, the Federal Affordable Care Act. For the 15-16 year, Danville Public Schools is required to provide health coverage to 70% of its full-time employees, which is something that we already do. However, in 2016-17, we will be required to provide coverage to 95% of full-time employees, and full-time employees is the Affordable Care Act definition of full-time, which is 30 hours per week, not the normal 40 we think of. Funding for coverage of those employees will need to be included in the 2016-17 budget in order for DPS to avoid significant penalties that would come with not covering 95% of our employees. The next item under mandates is the loss of the 2011-12 carryover revenue that was used for our 2014-15 budget. That is one-time money, so that will go away this year, so that is a mandate listed in the mandate section. Under new initiatives, they're broken down by the three areas of instruction, human resources, and administrative services. Under instruction, the first two bullets were actually initiated during this school year, the 2014-15 school year, by board action, and that is the Woodbury Elementary Assistant Principal and the Langston Focus School Assistant Principal. Those two positions would need to be added to the budget going forward for 15-16. New for 15-16 is a request to add the sports of baseball and softball to our middle school sports offerings. The amount there of $11,378 would include coverage for coaches, the travel for the teams, officials, and the startup equipment costs. So new initiatives for instruction $147,789. The next section is human resources. The first bullet there includes a 1.5% salary increase to licensed and classified personnel. The General Assembly included funding for SOQ, staff support, and teacher and support positions for a 1.5% increase for their portion. This is the total cost to give that to all Danville Public Schools classified and licensed employees. Also included under that human resources section is a $50,567 to increase steps 0 through 3 of our teacher salary schedule in order to promote recruitment efforts, for total human resources initiatives of $665,824. The next section is administrative services, and those projects listed there are safety and security projects that were identified by our Director of Safety and Security as needs for the division, for a total of $59,200, making the total new initiatives included in Draft 1 $872,813. The final section is savings and cost avoidance. These are the revenues, additional revenues or expenditure reductions that we're going to use to offset the mandates and new initiatives. The first one there is reduction to VRS rates for $129,792. Included in the General Assembly's budget was a reduction to the required amount we contribute to the Virginia retirement system for our employees. It was a reduction from 14.5% of their salary to 14.06%. So that saves us $129,000. The next bullet is our increase to state funding. We did receive a little additional state funding this year, primarily from the state salary incentive payment for the 1.5% increase. That's their portion of the 1.5% salary increase. The next bullet is a lot of line items together. 10% reductions to non-salary related line items and technical adjustments. Dr. Osborne gave direction to all departments to review their budgets and their budget requests this year and to look for 10% reductions that they could make in non-salary line items. This was a hard request because we have been cutting our budgets for multiple years and we dug really deep. And also included in this line would be just the normal reconciliation of actual positions filled against what was budgeted the year before when people left and new people come in. So that's just attrition, but a total of $678,706 in savings. The next line item is a little technical adjustment or a little small adjustment that we have been counseled to do to our health insurance plan, which will save us the amount of the 3% increase that was listed in the very first bullet that I mentioned. What this is, we of course are, as you know, self-funded in our insurance. We pay our claims as they are incurred plus the administrative expenses. But we do have stop-loss insurance, which protects us in case of a large claim. So this little change here would move the stop-loss insurance from $100,000 per employee to $110,000. And it would save us enough to where we would not have to increase our budget at all for health insurance, nor would we have to pass that along to our employees. So the employees would be paying the same thing for health insurance this year, or in 15-16 that they currently are. And the last bullet there under savings cost avoidance is a recommendation to use $387,500 of the 2012-2013 state carryover to balance Draft 1. Be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Ms. Cassida?
I have a question.
Yes,
You
Ms.
talked about, and I know this is going ahead, but 2016-17 budget, how many DPS staff would be affected as the 30-hour rule takes effect?
I did not bring those figures down with me. That was going to come, we pulled those together for Draft 2.
Okay.
It's about 120 people now that work, that are assigned, scheduled to work those 30 hours a week. Several different classifications of employees, but about 120, as my memory serves me.
Ms. Hall?
I would just like to say how much as a board member I appreciate all these savings and cost avoidance, in particular these 10% reductions. I know that's a challenge, and then to comment on the the new initiatives with the salary increase and the safety and security projects. Those are just two so very important, so I just wanted to comment on those items. Thank you, Ms. Cassidy.
Yes, Ms. Hughes.
Is there a way that we can get a summary of what those non-salary related line items are, just for our own personal knowledge, just in case somebody comes up and says, well, y'all know what y'all did?
A summary,
What those actual items were for,
yes, ma'am. It's about 500 different line items, but I don't know,
Go ahead,
I don't know what
don't
level
print
of
it.
summary you're requesting, but definitely we can get you a little more detail on
okay,
that.
thank you.
All right. Would you help clarify for the audience why the 1.5% salary increase for licensed and classified personnel is listed as $615,000 plus, and the increase to the state funding that from the headlines would seem like it's covering all of that, shows $326,000 plus. Help everyone understand why they don't match.
Absolutely. The General Assembly included a 1.5% salary increase, funding for a 1.5% salary increase for standards of quality positions. Those are those positions that are set aside in the standards of quality based on staffing ratios that are in the standards of quality. So also, the version of the budget that passed, this 1.5% increase is effective August 1. So it's actually less than a full year of a 1.5% increase. So that reduces the funding a little bit more. But the Danville Public Schools does hire more people than the standards of quality mandates. The standards of quality is very basic. All school divisions hire more than the standards of quality would dictate. So yes, by the time, and then that's just their portion. In addition, there's three factors. It's their portion of the standards of quality. Of course, we have to match in almost all categories. We have to match based on our composite index, which is the percentage that Danville Public Schools should be able to contribute towards education. Ours is right at 26%. So yes, those three factors together, they do not fully fund the cost of a 1.5% increase. Just a little over half.
I just calculated 53%.
Right.
Yes. And I know board members are generally aware of those kinds of issues, but I appreciate very much, Ms. Cassida, your willingness to take time to explain it in enough detail that the average citizen will better understand when they see a headline coming out of Richmond that the General Assembly is funding a 1.5% for all teachers, when in fact that's a very oversimplified statement that's not fully cognizant of all the factors that come into play.
And Danville Public Schools will be required to certify that we did
Right.
provide this raise. So you can't just take the money and not spend it on that particular area. So
Exactly. Ms. Hall.
One other comment on the safety and security projects. I'm hoping that we can get more information on these particular items, Identikid used division-wide, the software, for the public to understand these new projects, because I think it's so important for the safety of our students that our community knows that we're putting effort into keeping them safe. So I appreciate Dr. Cochran's recommendations on these items.
And he's here and prepared to speak if we would like.
Oh,
Would you like to have
I
him?
would love for him to, yes, share with the community.
I have one more question for Ms. Cassidy.
Sure.
When Ms. Hughes wanted a breakdown, you said 10% all departments. Can we start with what was cut with instruction?
certainly.
And then, so that we don't get lost in the.
Okay. All right, Dr. Cochran, give us some sense of what these 5 safety and security projects will be.
Okay, I assume the 5 I have are the same 5 you have. Hopefully. We'll start with the text, a tip line.
Okay.
As you know, one of the things that our young people have access to now that most of us did not when we were their age are smartphones. And many of our I think all of our young people want to be safe at school and would be willing to share information with us if they could do so in a way that provided safety and security for them. And so the Text-a-Tip is a third-party vendor that we would contract with to provide that service so that a student could safely text them a tip, information about a safety-related issue, and that the company under our contract would not divulge the source of that, but would share it with us in near real time so that we could address it. Okay, so that would be one of the initiatives. A second one is Sentinel Safe. Sentinel Safe is a company that monitors all open source social media sites, and they would do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 365 days a year. They would make us aware of any internal or external threat to any of our students or to any of our staff or to any of our buildings. And they would monitor all of those open source media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, all of those, and they would let us know again in near real time of any threat that would be out there. Hopefully that would give us a way of handling situations such as the one that we called the Purge this past year. We would have something, I think, to comfort parents and ourselves with, that someone is monitoring all of those sites. Also, the research into school acts of violence, in every case that I'm aware of, those students actually posted their intentions prior to committing those violent school acts. And we just weren't watching. So this would give us the ability then to monitor and watch all of the social media. A third one would be the Knox Rapid Entry System. This is something that our community partners with the fire department have been asking for a number of years. This would allow them to have very, very strict safeguarded access into our buildings through a knock box located on each site. There are several layers of security on those fire trucks that include lights going off, bells and whistles when someone opens that box and takes a school key out. It is not something that any one fireman or any one individual could do without triggering a number of redundant security measures. But this would give them access into our buildings so that they could access individuals or access an incident or situation 24 hours a day and make those buildings safe for us. The next one, we have been using a company called School Dude. Mr. Ramsey uses it in association with all of the maintenance requests. So they are a known company with quite good reputation. And they have initiated a new program called Crisis Manager. Most of you have seen and are aware that our crisis plan is a rather large, heavy, 3-ring binder that in many cases sits on shelves. It's not that we don't want to carry it around all day, it's just not always convenient to carry it around all day. This is a new mobile platform that would take our crisis plan and put it on mobile devices. We would have complete control over who has access. We can have levels of access to the plan. It would enable our principals, for example, if they have a crisis and it's a fire, they could take their smartphone, an icon for fire would be on the screen. They could touch it and instantly they would have our plan. It would end our having to copy those plans at about $50 a pop. If we want to make a change, that doesn't cost us anything, and it instantly, the next time they turn their phones on, it instantly upgrades everybody's copy of the plan. So we would go to a completely mobile platform for our school crisis plan, and we would have control over who has access to it. And there are many levels of access that we could provide people for our plan. The last one is Identikid. As you're aware, some of our schools have the Identikid program. I think Grove Park, Northside, Gibson, Johnson, Schoolfield, and Westwood, all of them would like to have it. The platform that we're proposing is called the Complete Campus Security Solution. It is web-based. Currently, those schools that have the Identikid program, they're standalone kiosks, and they're not connected to anything. What we would do would be have an internet-based program for all of our schools. That would give us access to all of the law enforcement databases. So if there is a registered offender that comes in, flashes their driver's license, it instantly takes note of that and puts that person on a no-go list, meaning that we would not, without further research and investigation, release a child to the custody of that person. So, and that would, because it's internet-based, all of the schools then would be tied together. We would be able to create reports, and we will also have the capacity to upload all of the information from that system into our Power School so that we could monitor and manage tardies. And also when you come to check a child out, it takes your picture, reads your driver's license, and has a permanent record then of your contact with that individual. In the event that we ever had to have a reunification, for example, if we had a fire in our building and had to move the students away from the building and then reunite them with their parents, that would give us a perfect platform to track and manage the reunification of all of those students with their families. So there is a one-time cost associated with this, and that would be, for consistency, we would put new computers at each site, 2 kiosks at George Washington because of the size, and then 1 at all the other schools.
Excellent. Questions for Dr. Cochran on these safety and security upgrade projects?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You did a great explanation. I don't think I understood everything you said, but going to the text a tip for kids. If the kids will be told that they can text a tip anonymously, are there situations where they would no longer be anonymous because of a situation that may have happened? At some point, would that not apply? That they would not be anonymous?
We have written these as proposals. We have not even identified a particular vendor yet. We've looked at several vendors and the prices, because knowing we have to have budget appropriation before we would. But those kinds of considerations would be something we'd have to iron out, and in a memorandum of understanding or a contract, we would have to have understandings about what would happen, and that would have to be communicated. One of the advantages of using the third-party vendor, though, is it shifts a lot of that liability and responsibility over to their side of the ledger. And that gives us the ability to say this will be anonymous to our kids. Because I think if we ever breach that anonymity, then we have, in effort, defeated the purpose of it.
And I think that's my concern, because, we can tell kids, you can tell us this, and it's anonymous, and they'll tell you, but then when that's broken, then we've lost the trust.
Exactly. And we would have to have all of that specified and clarified and declared up front, so that our children and our community would know exactly what are the parameters for this system.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Cochran?
Thank you.
Thank you. And how about further board member questions for Ms. Cassidy? All right, then at this point, we will begin the public hearing on this first draft of our budget. Who would like to come speak to the board about any item covered in the draft 1 or other ideas for our budget for next year? Feel free to come to the lectern? No one. Last call. All right, then we will close this public hearing on the upcoming budget. And there will be one more coming up, I believe it's next month, at the April regular monthly meeting that we will also have another one.
I do have a question. Do we have this provided for copies for the public?
They were on the table back there.
Okay, I just want to be
Okay.
sure that's available for them. Thank
And
you.
if we've run out of copies there, or if someone viewing this on TV would like a copy, they could simply call the main switchboard for Danville Public Schools, and a copy will be provided to them. Absolutely.
It will also be on our homepage.
On the homepage of the website, that's www.danvillepublicschools.org. Okay, so you can get it there. All right, so we now move to the more general section on public comments, and at this point, you could address the board on anything relative to our work with Danville Public Schools. Would anyone in the audience care to come to the lectern? Yes, please, come right ahead.
I haven't been doing this much.
Bless, thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't get here in time to sign in. So good evening, Dr. Paul Hamus, members of the school board, Dr. Osborne, and others. I'm Beverly Abbott, president of the Danville Education Association. On behalf of our members, I'm here to speak on several topics. I do have a little budget thing. Budget, ERIP, and the VEA PTA initiative. The proposed budget does include the 1.5 salary increase, and we're glad you're providing the matching funds as stipulated in the Commonwealth's budget. Salary steps have been frozen for about 7 years. Many faculty are nearing retirement and may never reach their desired maximum salary to help in their retirement years. If funding can be realized, we would love to have a step increase included, as many divisions in the state are doing. I've noticed that ERIP will be studied according to the school board minutes, and I trust you'll keep in mind those already under the plan and those who may be newly entering the plan. On a new note, the Virginia Education Association and the Virginia Parent Teachers Association are collaborating on hosting a rally in Richmond on April 18th to address issues for Governor McAuliffe to consider in regards of public education when he creates his next biennium budget. Funding for our public schools is currently about 16% below 2009 levels. And the VEA is arranging buses for this, they're having a rally, and VEA is arranging buses for all the localities statewide to attend the rally on April 18th. This is a flyer. I'll leave one with y'all. And I also have some information about the purposes behind this rally. Can I pass this out?
Yes.
And of course, every year, we look at Virginia being right now, it's the 10th wealthiest state in the nation, but they are 39th among per pupil expenditures in education. The differences in per student funding in the state, King George County is at about $8,500, Arlington's at $19,800. It's a difference of more than $11,000 within the state for what's being put forth for public education. The rally in Richmond on April 18th at 1 p.m., they're going to have a bus drop-off at the Richmond Convention Center. They're going to have music and speakers and food and everything at that. Then there will be a march to the Capitol, and then the rally will be at the Capitol Bell Tower. And we are hoping that we can get lots of people from the Danville area to support this and to go to the rally. It's open to members of the Education Association, members of the PTA, any interested people within the community. They're also invited to bring their children with them if they like. And I could be a contact person for anyone that may be interested in it. And BEA has been asking how many people for the bus. So if people that are interested in attending and can contact me, I can give them bigger numbers so that we can have more buses from our area go. We'd appreciate it if you could support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abbott. And I will point out that the date, April 18th, is on a Saturday, so it's not a school day, and that should enable more of our folks to help bring the message to Richmond that we do indeed need more help for the major task of ensuring that every child receives the quality education that they deserve to make a future in the 21st century. Thank you very much. All right, others who would like to speak to the board this evening? All right, seeing none, then we shall move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a communication report from Administrative Services on our wellness plan and the health screenings. So Coretta Lipscomb and Stacy Ensminger. Come forward. Thank you, Stacy.
It's been a lot of good work and a lot of good energy. I guess I'll start with a little background. Since 2006, school districts have had to have a local wellness policy in place. And with the passing of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act in 2010, it kind of shifted the burden of that policy more towards the Child Nutrition Department, I believe. And with all the changes that came in the nutrition, had to be written into a new policy. The new provisions, the comment period has ended, the final will come out this summer, I believe. But the policy, effective policies through implementation, evaluation, and having to publicly report progress. Therefore, at the start of this school year, it was clear that our wellness policy needed a makeover. I called on the members of the former School Health Advisory Board who'd worked with the original policy, and also some new members from the community, and we dubbed ourselves the Wellness Task Force. In addition to updating the plan to be in compliance with current child nutrition standards, the task force also worked very diligently to produce a wellness plan that was feasible to implement immediately, and also one that demonstrates our vision of wellness throughout the public schools. At this time, I would like to invite any members of the Wellness Task Force in attendance to please stand and be recognized for your hard work.
Yay.
While the plan mainly addresses wellness for students in the areas of food available in schools, including fundraisers, nutrition education, and physical activity, there's also a component for staff wellness. Establishing a culture of wellness within Danville Public Schools is important in keeping healthcare costs down and having healthy, healthy staff that are good role models for our students. We knew that it would be difficult to try and keep all sites engaged and informed. And with that came the nomination of a wellness champion at each site. Our wellness champions have done an amazing job of creating excitement around wellness, keeping sites informed and motivated. Various staff wellness initiatives have been launched by our champions. A lot of friendly competition going on right now, Biggest Loser contests, free gym passes being given out on-site, exercise programming, and lots more. They also work very hard to promote our health screenings and answer any questions and concerns from any of our staff. I want to make it clear that without them, we would not have been so successful. And I invite any wellness champions in attendance to please also stand and be recognized.
Yay.
And with that, I'll turn it over to our central office wellness champion.
And we are actually in our Zumba room tonight, so when the chairs are away, we actually exercise here in the central office, so we're really excited about that. Well, so with that, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As Employee Services Manager, one of my duties is to administer the benefits program for Danville Public Schools. And as you know, we changed health plan carriers in October 2014 to Gateway Health. And one of the reasons we selected Gateway was due to their robust wellness initiatives and medical management program that we hope will assist us with managing our health plan better and result in having healthier, happier employees. So in January, DPS employees had the opportunity, so this past January, we had the opportunity to participate in our first ever health screening event, which was a superior opportunity for employees to learn their personal health statistics as well as ways to maintain or improve their health. So at this time, I would like to introduce several Gateway representatives with whom I've worked very closely during the transition from our former health plan. And tonight we have with us, and I'll ask them to please stand when being introduced, Ann Moore Sparks, who is Danville Public Schools' client account representative. And also we have with us Monica Cruz, the Director of Medical Management at Gateway. And we were supposed to have Ms. Leslie Crumpton, who was the Healthy Solutions Coordinator, who was very instrumental with the health screenings and just a wonderful resource for us and our employees. And she was not able to be with us tonight. I'm sure the inclement weather had a little something to do with that. They'll be giving a brief overview of our health screening process, as well as recognizing the Danville Public Schools location with the greatest percentage of participation in the screenings, as well as presenting prizes to our individual participant winners. So with that, I'll let you folks take over.
Good evening, Dr. Polhamus and all of the board members. It is a great pleasure to be with you tonight and to be afforded this opportunity to present a few awards to Danville Public School Systems. Danville Public Schools and Gateway Health partner together to create, promote, and sustain a culture of wellness for your workforce. Each of your locations, as they've said before, were designated Danville Public School employees to be champions for the purpose of increasing screening participation rates, to work with the Danville Public Schools Wellness Committee to engage your workforce in participating in activities and lifestyle choices that will improve their overall health. During the month of January, as Ms. Coretta has already stated, Gateway Health's team of nurses and support staff held health screenings at each one of your locations, including your schools, transportation, maintenance department, as well as the central office. The screening process entailed participants completing a health risk assessment and on-site biometric screening to check height, weight, BMI, blood pressure, cholesterol panel, and glucose. Each member that participated was counseled on-site about their results. As an incentive to increase the participation rate, each participant's name was entered into a drawing, and they could choose between a Fitbit activity tracker or a bicycle. So tonight we came to deliver on those prizes to the winners. Gateway Health also wanted to recognize the entity who had the overall greatest participation rate. And tonight we would like to do that by awarding a plaque as well as a banner that they can display with pride for presenting a culture of wellness and bragging rights for 1 year. The next steps are to work with your wellness committee champions and the Gateway registered nurses to develop a rigorous and sustainable wellness committee to assist with keeping your healthy employees healthy, improve the health of those that are at risk for developing preventable chronic diseases, and to help those with chronic diseases manage their diseases to prevent progression. Individually, Gateway Health nurses will engage members who take advantage of our wellness and disease management program in telephonic health coaching, education, and setting measurable goals to improve their health. So at this time, we would like to present the two winners of the drawing. The first winner is Ms. Ellen Salford. She's a paraprofessional at GW High School, and she selected a Fitbit.
Aha.
She's not here. Would you please present this? Next, we're excited to present to Ms. Nancy Jensen, who's a cafeteria worker at Forest Hill. She selected the bicycle, and safety is always first, so we got our helmet too.
Oh, it matches her outfit.
And Gateway colors. With a picture with our catcher.
Yes, indeed.
Y'all sing with
Bravo. Oh, that's excellent.
Next. I tried to get Ann to write it in here for her, test it out. Next, we would like to present your entity that had the highest overall participation rate of 95%. This plaque will be awarded to the maintenance department for achieving the highest screening participation rate. Is there someone here from maintenance?
You get bragging rights.
Excellent.
That was such a great achievement to get, that many people to participate in our first round of screenings.
Yeah.
And also, we want to present this banner, Gateway Health and Danville Public Schools 2015 Excellence Award winner
Aha.
for overall participation. So we hope that you will hang this with pride and know that others will be competing next year to get the banner and the flag.
I'm so excited that the maintenance department.
And last but not least, we wanted to recognize the wellness champion because it is a huge task to get people to participate in screenings, especially when you're thinking about pricking someone's finger and getting that data. But we want to award Mr. John Bridges, the wellness champion.
Yeah.
Healthy Solutions Department, and we hope that you will go out and find some healthy things with your gift certificate and enjoy it. Thank you so much for being our wellness champion. We thank you all so much for allowing us to present these awards tonight.
And thank you. Very great effort underway, and I trust that it will continue building throughout Danville Public Schools. Very good. All right, we now move to communication from the superintendent. First, there is the impact of inclement weather on the school schedule. So, Dr. Osborne, bring us up to date.
Thank you. Is spring ever going to get here, folks? Sleeting even as we sit. For 2014-2015, there were 182 days in the calendar. We have had 7 days that school has been closed. That has provided 1,225 hours of instructional time, less 1 hour a day for lunch, class changes, and recess at the elementary school. So this gives us 6 hours per day times 175 days for 1,050 hours. If we take off the early release that we had for parent conferences, which is 10.5 hours, and 4 hours for the 2 days that we arrived 2 hours late, that gives us 1,035.5 hours. We are required to have 990 hours. So we have no days that we have to make up at this time based on the required number of hours in school and the amount of hours we have remaining in the days that we have already been and the days that are coming. 45.5 more hours than the minimum is required.
Very good.
Questions?
Very nice.
Questions for Dr.
Questions?
Osborne?
That's wonderful.
It's great.
That
It
is.
is
That
wonderful.
is.
Lots of questions about spring break, and we tried to let everyone know that right now spring break is not on the table. And hopefully, the spring weather is around the corner.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
It's still a bit too early to make any definitive pronouncements, but the calculations that Dr. Osborne shared simply show that by having more than the minimum academic time in our daily schedule, that we in fact have adequate time to meet the minimum state requirements without having to endanger spring break or any other activities coming up, and graduations can still be scheduled as they had been. So if there are questions on that, feel free to contact the central office, but we believe we are in good shape there, and we're going to try not to worry about missing more days for weather. All right, we now move to the update on the capital request to City Council based on their discussions with us at our joint dinner meeting about a month ago. So, Dr. Osborne, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, at our meeting with City Council, we were encouraged to put together a listing of capital items that we considered priority items and to present those to the council. School board and staff discussed those at our retreat. We also discussed them at the last school board meeting. We contacted the city and were told they would entertain our request on paper if we would send them to them in the form that the city uses. So what you have, no different request, but on the format or on the form, using the format the city uses for all of their projects. You will notice that there's more than 1 year. It starts with fiscal year 2016 and goes through 20. On these forms, which represent the top 3 priorities for fiscal year 2016, we have the explanation for those things that we are requesting, such as roof replacements, replacing water lines, the boilers at George Washington High School, to add gutters to Schoolfield Elementary, and to replace and repair some of the exterior at Schoolfield Elementary. These will go right away to the city manager so that he can include those in the budget request to the city for capital items, to be shortly followed by the remaining 4 years, 2017 through 2020 items, which will encompass the remaining 7 items on the 10-item capital listing that you received at the retreat. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is just a breakdown provided for your information.
Questions for Dr. Osborne on the capital projects request list that will be sent to City Council? Well, we thank you so much for pulling the information together in the format that the city would like to receive it. And how soon will this actually go to the city manager and members of council?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right, very good. Okay, we now move to communication item from the school board on the superintendent-elect contract. Basically, we wanted that on the agenda tonight in case you missed the news coverage. We do have now a fully signed contract with incoming superintendent-elect Dr. Stanley Jones. And there are copies of that available this evening for anyone who would like to have a hard copy. It is a public document. And if there is someone watching who would like to receive a copy of that contract, it's readily available in electronic form, but we could also make it available in paper form if you'll just call the central office at Danville Public Schools. Are there any questions or comments from board members on the superintendent-elect's contract? Very good. Then we'll move on to the personnel recommendations. And I am not going to invite Dr. Jennings to the lectern because she, I believe, is struggling a bit with mobility. So we will let her stay right where she is. Dr. Jennings.
Thank you, Dr. Mohamed. I was all set to say that I sustained a sports injury as part of my wellness initiatives. But thank you for preventing me from giving a falsehood. I do want to point out one thing, that Ms. Lipscomb is a member of the Human Resources staff. I just want the world to know that, and we are very proud of her. I will say, too, she is quite the taskmaster when it comes to being the school board office's wellness champion, and she cuts her supervisor no slack. With regard to this evening's personnel recommendations, we do have for you 2 pages. I hope you were able to pull both of those with a total of 7 recommendations for your review and hopefully your approval. The one item that I wanted to point out in particular is on the second page, the case number that ends with 04, and I wanted to be sure you noticed that we were able to find a replacement for our NJ ROTC teacher at George Washington High School who left in January. So we're very, very pleased to find someone who could fill in there. If you wonder how the salary gets to be so large, that is because we must pay what the military tells us to pay. So that's what that's about. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond. Other than that, we respectfully request your approval.
This is an action item for both the original and the addendum sheet of personnel recommendations from Dr. Jennings. What is your pleasure?
Chair, I move we approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Dr. Campbell to approve, and although it was very close, I'm going to declare that Ms. Dones got the second in there.
I agree.
So, is there any discussion on this? All right, then please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan?
Yes. Thank you very much. We now move to that tab there. Let's see, where are we? All right, we now are back with administrative services. This is the recommendation for a covered walkway installation at the building on Piney Forest that previously housed Taylor School. So, Mr. Ramsey is listed as the presenter. Mr. Ramsey, please come right ahead.
Dr. Paul Hamus, Dr. Osborne, good evening to school board members. We're back again tonight, bringing back to you the proposed covered walkway that was requested by Carlisle School. The last meeting, we were given some questions to get some answers to, and between Mr. Hudgens, Mr. Spencer, city inspection, city zoning, I think we pretty much have those answers tonight. If it is approved, Mr. Spencer, his suggestion of including a hold harmless agreement can be initiated with that. Of course, the timeline will be as soon as it's approved. We can act as the contracting agent with the J.W. Squire, and Carlisle has agreed to reimburse us the expenditures for that. The question was asked, did Carlisle solicit bids for more than one company? They did not, and even under our procurement, it's at the cost that we will not have to submit for quotes or anything. It's under even our procurement. The question about, excuse me, the ADA issue, that does not come into play. We are not changing the accessibility to the building. If we demolish the steps, we would have to, but just installing a covered walk does not come under ADA. So with those questions, unless you have some more, we request approval for this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramsey. You, I believe, have answered every one of our questions from the last meeting very effectively. Are there questions or concerns around the table? Then this is an action item. What is your pleasure?
Chairman, we approve.
All right, Dr. Campbell
Second.
has made a motion to approve, and I heard a second from Ms. Hall. All right, any discussion? All right. I would just like to say that I really appreciate how hard you've worked to take care of our questions, and I really believe it is in everyone's best interest that we are the ones actually getting the work done. I think that's going to cut out a lot of potential difficulties that might have arisen if we'd gone another direction. So thank you, sir. Any other discussion? All right, then, if you're ready to vote, please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Ms. Downs?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamas?
Yes. Thank you very much. All right, we now move to some equipment purchases for the kitchens, and that's in the area for Ms. Ensminger again.
Yes, we, in January, we put out an invitation to bid for equipment to be purchased for our school kitchens at all sites. It included refrigerators, visual coolers, and ovens and steamers. Some of it was new equipment, some of it was replacement of some antiquated, unreparable, replaceable items. The bid represents a portion of the capitalized equipment and replacement expenditures previously approved as a budget, as an amendment to the current year's budget. We received our bids and evaluated them on February 3rd. The recommendation is that the bid be awarded to the lowest bidder, which was Solo Company out of Martinsville, and I'm requesting approval to proceed with that purchase in hopes that we can get this equipment in during spring break. And I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, are there any questions for Ms. Ensminger before we put a motion on the floor? All right, then a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gould, with a second from Dr. Campbell. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All right, then let's call the roll, please.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Ms. Downs?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamas?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So let's see what's up next here. Emergency replacement of boilers at George Washington High School. I know we've been watching those boilers carefully and nursing them through various illnesses. So, Mr. Ramsey, tell us what you have in mind at this point.
All right, Dr. Paul Hamas, Dr. Osborne, members of the school board, good evening again. As you're aware, we are now operating on 2 of 6 heating boilers at GW High School. This creates a critical need with the heating system. With approval from Dr. Osborne and accounts coach from Ms. Cassida, we are replacing 2 of the 6 boilers as an emergency replacement. Therefore, I'm respectfully requesting your approval in the amount of $84,500 from the contingency funds. If you have questions, I'm available.
All right, are there questions for Mr. Ramsey? Yes, Mr. Gould.
Actually, I have a few questions, Dr. Paul Hamas, but they're for Dr. Osborne. They're
Okay.
financial. First one is, will this come from contingency or from carryover from last year?
It comes from contingency because this is an item that contingency is designed for. This is an emergency purchase for which we did not plan. It had to be purchased quickly in order to ensure continuation of heat in the winter months at George Washington. So contingency is appropriate.
Where will this, assuming, and I know that we're going to approve this, where will that leave us? What will our balance of contingency funds be after this is taken into account?
Don't have the exact number, but I think it's around 300,000 that has not been allocated.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Ramsey, as an emergency replacement, does that affect how we go about acquiring the boilers in terms of putting it out for bids or whatever?
Well, under emergency replacement, I kind of knew this was coming. So back in November, I started searching the market, trying to find the best boiler that would fit in the footprint that the old ones did with the least amount of work as far as piping, wiring, all of this goes. So I had already looked at several different kind of boilers and had made a decision and just to go out for bids for all of them. But then as these started going bad, almost like they were programmed to do that, we had to, what I felt was two would get us the basic minimum to meet the needs that we need for right now, and then we will go out for bids for the remaining 4 boilers.
I see. Are there other questions for Mr. Ramsey or for Dr. Osborne? All right, then, what is your pleasure?
Chair, I move we approve.
Second?
All right, we have a motion from Dr. Campbell and a second this time from Ms. Hughes to approve the emergency replacement of 2 boilers at George Washington High School, $84,500. Any discussion?
When will they be put in? When will they be put in?
They're already,
Oh, they're
already started. They should be finished middle or maybe the end of next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Understood. Other questions or other discussion on the motion? All right, then let's call for the vote, please.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Amos?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramsey. All right, let's see here. We now come down to action from the school board. First one up is approval to exceed board travel limit. The National School Boards Association is coming up in this month, in March, out in Nashville, and we have a couple of board members slated to take that trip, for whom it would likely push them slightly above the annual limit on board member travel. Given the cost of airfare to most anywhere these days and the cost of hotel rooms in convention cities, I believe we need to go ahead and approve this because the national conference is certainly a major opportunity for school board members to get the latest professional development. So my suggestion is that we take action to approve exceeding the travel limit for anyone going to the annual NSBA conference.
So moved.
All right, Dr. Campbell made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think I heard over here, was that you, Ms. Dones? Okay. Motion from Dr. Campbell, second from Ms. Dones to approve the exceeding the travel limit. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Amos?
Yes. All right, then, the next item on the agenda, dealing with the superintendent-elect's consulting contract. Mr. Spencer, are we at the point that we are ready to go ahead and authorize that?
No, I think we need to table this one to the next meeting.
Need to wait still? Okay. Well, then we will wait for final agreement on both ends before we take action on that. Are there any questions from board members?
Just a request, Mr. Chairman, may we add that to the closed session motion for just the discussion of this?
Consultant with the attorney for contract, yes. We could put that in there, certainly. All right, anything else? All right, then we will move right along, and that brings us, unless I have overlooked something, to our around the table comments, starting with Mr. Spencer.
I don't have any comments.
Okay, then we will turn to Dr. Osborne next.
Earlier, we had a presentation about our wellness efforts. And when it came to Dr. Jennings to talk about personnel, she began her information, her discussion remarks, talking that Ms. Lipscomb was a member of Human Resources staff. And she said that Ms. Lipscomb cut her no slack. Ms. Lipscomb cuts none of us any slack in this building. But I say that with high regard because she is absolutely excellent at being the central office wellness chairperson. She encourages. She is such a good example. She puts posters up everywhere, even in the restrooms, and she is just excellent. She is such a good representative of wellness, and so I very much thank her for that. I also wanted to mention something that I felt I smiled when Mr. Ramsey said the boilers are already installed and the board just approved the money tonight. If I were someone in the audience, I would wonder about that. We knew the purchase was an emergency purchase, and so we did not take the money out of contingency. We took it out of Mr. Ramsey's operational budget, which is sometimes the case. We have to go ahead and do that when we are afraid that something's going to happen. So we wanted to make sure that we got the boilers in as quickly as possible. They were delayed just a bit, but we wanted to get them in and make sure they were what we needed and wanted and were fully functioning before we took those dollars to the board for request to come out of contingency. So that's the timeline for that, and I just wanted to make sure everyone listening understood.
Ms. Stones?
Okay. I went first the last time. But that's okay. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to all of the DPS students who participates in any area of music. I can't sing, I can't play an instrument, so I love listening to other people, as well as the staff leaders. Congratulations to the art instructors, the finance departments, the schools that received an exception-free audit. Who did I leave out? Thanks to Mrs. Abbott for her presentation tonight on putting kids first. Mrs. Ensminger, definitely Coretta. Coretta goes to church with me, so I know how she is. She does the same thing at church. And congratulations to all the departments for participating in the wellness program also. And again, thanks for all of the things that all of our staff with DPS does on a daily basis.
Ms. Hughes?
You took everything. It's always a pleasure serving on this board. It has been for quite a while. But Dr. Osborne, you did touch on something that I definitely wanted to bring out. I figured that it fit that it was Coretta who was the champion of the central office, when I realized that there is not a toilet in this building that I can go to without being made to think about wellness issues. And bless her very much. I'm really excited about the report on the impact of the snow days because I've gotten some pressure from some parents about the snow days, and I think it was driven by the fear of having to make those days up, and it got kind of hairy there for a while. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all.
Dr. Campbell?
I want to, first of all, say that we're so happy about George Washington's basketball team. If I'm right, Mr. Jackson, we now go to the state.
We're in the state tournament.
We're in the state tournament, so we certainly commend them for what they have done and believe that we're going to go further. I was also at George Washington this Monday night orchestra. Beautiful presentation. So many of our young people have so much talent, and it's great to see the talent that we have. I also want to commend American National Bank, because many of us on the board, as you know, last month was Black History Awareness Month, and they had a program that displays some of the African Americans' accomplishment, and to see and to hear what we experience at American National Bank is so commendable in regard to the race car driver, Wendell Scott. And so we are on the map. And so I wanted to thank American National Bank. On a personal note, to Ms. Hall, certainly our heart went out to you in reference to the passing of your sister. And wish I had received just a little bit more information about it, because when I was trying to get to the homegoing celebration, my understanding was over. And so, but we want you to know that our heart goes out to you.
I appreciate it.
All we do, and all of my colleagues that we do, all of the work we do, but we know that family comes first. And so we love you much, and we'll continue to pray for you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Gould?
I just want to echo what everyone's already shared. There's a lot to be proud of in our district. Two things, two kind of other items that I want to mention. Next Thursday afternoon at 4:30 in the Bonner Commons, the board will be hosting an informational meeting on our division's ERIP program. I know that that's something of particular interest to a number of both retirees and folks who are currently working in the division. And once again, 4:30 next Thursday in the Bonner Commons. Hope that anyone who's interested will join us. And also, folks who've watched tonight's meeting have seen that we had discussion of the first draft of this year's proposed budget. I've been very lucky to have a very patient tutor this year in Ms. Cassida, and I'm very grateful for the time that she spends with all of us in helping us understand our budget. And I would just say to members of the public, if we can provide you with any information about our budget that you don't already have, if we can answer any questions, please let us know. We want to be as transparent as we can and put as much information out there. So just let us or let our staff know if there's anything that we can do to help increase your understanding of the budget, and hope that folks will join us over the next 2 months as we work toward adoption of our final budget for next year.
Mrs. Hall?
Well, I have no additional comments. I just would echo my board colleagues' comments, and one thing I would like to say is to thank them all for their thoughts and prayers, the messages that I have recently received with my loss. And I have no other comments tonight. Thank you.
Dr. Williams?
I certainly agree with all the wonderful things that my colleagues have said this evening in our closing comments. I would like to caution our live audience to be a bit careful as you head home. I know that the temperature is right on the borderline right now, so the roads might be just a tad slippery. We really appreciate you coming out tonight for our meeting and for your involvement, in many cases, in tonight's very positive meeting. And I think at that point, that shall probably wrap it up. So let's take a break, and then we can do the rest of that after we come back.
I move the meeting of the school board of the city of Danville, Virginia be recessed for 10 minutes.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second that came from Ms. Hughes over there to take a 10-minute recess. So any discussion on that possibility? All right, please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Ms. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Thank you all.